On paper, which leader bike should you buy? So today we're comparing 8 bikes from the top manufacturers: Suzuki GSX-R 1000R, the Ducati Panigale V2, the Aprilla RSV4 RR, the BMW S1000RR, the Yamaha YZF R1, the Kawasaki ZX-10R, and finally the Honda CBR 1000RR-R Fireblade SP. It's already won a prize for having the longest name of the group. And finally the Ducati Panigale V4S. As you can see from the initial photos, they're all pretty stunning looking bikes. So for round 1, let's take a look at each bike's weight. You can see I've highlighted the best in each group, green, and the worst, red. You can see both Ducatis come significantly lighter than the rest of the bikes, around 170 kilos, compared with Kawasaki, which weighs in at a whopping 207 kilos. That's 37 kilos heavier, or 17% heavier than the two Ducatis. So what's the competition without a leaderboard? I've assigned 8 points for first place, 7 points for second, right down to 1 point for the bike coming in 8th. So after round 1, let's see where the bikes stand. Okay, round 2. The cost. A brief disclaimer on this point: every website I looked at had different primary costs for each bike, so I've took the average of both. I found that both the Panigale and the Honda were significantly more expensive than the other 6 bikes on the list, with the BMW on sale for extremely reasonable $17,000. This is less than half the price of the V4S, and it made me quite angry, and it got almost to the point where I removed the Ducati from my comparisons. But then again, I took a look at it and decided it could stay. So let's update the leaderboard. Although it's still early days and the BMW being the cheapest bike in the bunch, it now currently sits at first place. At this point we can see that 4 European manufacturers top the leaderboard, and the Japanese bikes fill the bottom 4 places. So on to round 3. And this is the one that everyone's interested in: pure horsepower. No surprise that the 2 most expensive bikes produce the most amount of horses, around 214 and 221. However, again, out of reasonably affordable bikes, BMW tops the list, producing a dizzy 205 horsepower, which is more than enough to send you catapulting into the nearest wall. The Panigale V2 is the bottom of the power charts, only producing 155 horsepower, which is quite disappointing for the price tag attached to the bike. Looking at the leaderboard, BMW is still out in front and the Panigale is sitting in second. What is surprising, however, is that the Aprilla is currently in third, after a strong 3rd, 4th and 5th place finish in the first 3 rounds. For round 4, I thought we could take a look at just how much you're paying for each of the horses you're buying. No surprises, the BMW again destroys the field with an average cost of $82.90 per horse. What is shocking, however, is how much you're paying for the Italian Panigale V2 horses, coming in at $135 a horse, followed closely by Honda's at $132. So here we are back at the leaderboard again, and at this point I think we can stop talking about just how good value for money the BMW is, and again mention the surprise star of the show, the Aprilla. With their recent improvements on the MotoGP scene and their 76-year-old pedigree, the Aprilla has long since been overlooked, and with improvements in the manufacturing abilities and the quality of these bikes make them a serious consideration. No surprise on the speed test, with the lightest, most powerful bike on our list having a 2.9 second 0 to 100 time. However, when the slowest bike on the list is coming in at 3.1 seconds, none of these bikes really would leave you embarrassed at a set of traffic lights. Unfortunately, the Aprilla with the slowest 0 to 100 time drops down the list to 5th in the standings, and the second fastest 0 to 100 time, the Kawasaki, is the first Japanese bike to break into the top 3, with the Panigale V2 still appearing to be overpriced for the performance and bringing up the rear of the field in last place. So that's the numbers part of our review finished. The next 2 categories I'm scoring are more just around my personal opinions, and obviously everyone's entitled to their own opinion, so please leave a comment if you disagree with mine. Always interested to hear your thoughts. First of all, the looks. Easily the best looking bikes in the bunch of the 2 Ducatis. Unfortunately, a picture is all I want, as they have the typical Ducati rattles, and I think they'd probably drive me crazy over a long ride. Looking at the Aprilla, it really isn't a very attractive bike. and then when you listen to it, it doesn't get much better, and it sounds pretty weak compared to the other competitors. And to be honest, this finishes off the chance of the Aprilla finishing a top 3. There really wasn't much between the BMW and Kawasaki. They all look fine and sound like you'd expect a 1000cc superbike to sound. The Suzuki sound is one of my favourites, surprisingly, along with the Honda. Whereas I find the Honda looks amazing, the GSX appears to have been left in a bit of a time loop, and it's just not my cup of tea. So finally, looking at the overall results, there's one clear winner, the BMW S1000R, being the cheapest bike in the group, having a strong performance, good looks, and not finishing below 5th in any test. It really is a great all-round bike. If you're one of those people who always buys Japanese bikes, then I really think you should consider the Kawasaki. As long as you're not a small statured person, you should be fine, but the weight kind of makes it a bit of a handful sometimes for the smaller people among us. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want to see more content like this, give the video a thumbs up, smash that like button, and subscribe to my channel.